So the first thing we need is a couple of screens, and here we are. These are Samsung 32-inch TVs, 1080p, and these are new, pretty much the cheapest TVs I could find. I did start off with a couple of reconditioned TVs I ordered, but that fell through. They were obviously substantially cheaper, but they turned out not to be identical models. I think it's important to get identical models just so we can be sure of getting things like the uniformity and the colour balance and so on. So that's where we're going next. We've got to take these out of the boxes and think about mounting them. Well, the next challenge is going to be to mount these new displays at the left and at the right, and to do that we're going to have to do a little bit of re-engineering. So the sides of the cockpit at the moment are made of this, basically these MDF sheets. These are going to have to come off, and I mean essentially they're going to be replaced by the monitors. And if we look at the left hand side, the screen should come from about here down to where this little shelf is. This shelf's going to have to probably go, but basically there'll be no need then for a side. I mean, there'll be a bit of a gap up here which I'll have to maybe think about, and the width again is going to be pretty much the width that the MDF covers. So we'll see how that goes, because the two sides are not equal. There's a problem to solve over on the right here, and that problem is that I have all the electronics mounted on the right hand side in these little boxes, which you've been familiar with if you followed the build. So I've got to move, when I unmount that MDF panel, I'm going to have to think of an alternative place to mount the electronics, the Bodner boards basically. Okay, here's the next stage. We've got the side off, and having exposed that, I've come up with a sort of fairly rough and ready but probably quite effective way of mounting the screen. I've got a block like this, and just really I'm just going to mount it on the edge of the frame here, and essentially we're going to take the TV screen and we're going to just stand it on that ledge, and as luck would have it, this screen fits pretty much perfectly in the gap exposed by this frame, in the vertical direction that is, and it butts up against the forward side of the frame here, leaves a bit of a gap. And what I've done just for now is I've got a bungee. Just gonna put that bungee cord around to hold it in place. So that's vertical and it's in the right position. What I haven't really worked out yet is whether or not the viewing angle is going to be suitable for these screens. You probably recall when I did the instrument panels, there was an issue of the viewing angle being a little bit too acute from some positions, and so getting a kind of a washed out effect on the screens. That may be a problem with these side views because they're not completely out to the sides, if you like. They're to the sides but forward, and so I'm just a little bit worried that towards the front end of the, particularly towards the front edge of the side displays, and particularly down at the bottom, we might have an issue with this screen looking a little bit washed out. So the only way I'm going to know that is to try. I am taking my cues from what I learned in mounting the instrument panel screens, which is I've got the bottom of the display in each case to the front side, because the viewing angle from the bottom, if it behaves the same way as the LED monitors, the viewing angle from the bottom should be more favourable than from the top. But at the end of the day, this is going to have to be something to experiment with, and you know, we do have the option of making the screens not complete, the side views not completely parallel. I don't see any problem with that. We can tilt them out at this edge. I can't really do it without risking throwing the thing on the floor at the minute, but if it's tilted out at the bottom edge, you know, I don't see any reason why we can't have those screens tilted out maybe as much as 30 degrees or more. You know, we can still get a legitimately display a side view on those, but it's something I'm going to have to try out. I think what I'll do is, once I've got these screens mounted roughly at both sides, these are just clamped on at the minute, I'm going to screw these wooden ledges on. I'm going to power them up and just experiment with that viewing angle. I'm probably not going to be able to get FSX on the screens at the minute. I certainly can't fly with FSX. I haven't really worked out what combination of computers I'm going to use to do that. But well, that said, I can probably plug them into the PC and at least get an FSX generated static display on there, and just work out really what are the constraints with respect to that viewing angle. So look out for that next. Okay, so I've taken off the right hand side panel as well, and I've just finished relocating the electronics over there on the right. So that's all there, fairly tidy enough, and quite accessible when we need it. So now we can try out the right hand display as well. I can see already that's going to be a little bit more tricky to mount than the left hand one. There's a thing here right in the way. I think that's part of the throttle quad mounting. I think the net effect of that is the right hand side screen is going to be a little bit further out than the left hand one. Well, there's something of an impression of how this is going to look. It's just a very rough and ready experiment here. We've got the right hand side view visible there, and it's not matched up very well. There's something of a compromise required here, because essentially I don't have a full width cockpit, so what I'm showing on the right hand side screen is the view from the right seat, whereas my main display is showing the virtual cockpit from the left seat. I suppose technically I could put myself in the centre of the virtual cockpit on the main display. I'm not really sure how critical that join is going to be once I'm up and flying. And the other thing at the moment, you may or may not see this on the video, is the colour balance is not right. The TV is just showing the picture as it comes out of the box really. I haven't done anything to tinker with the menus and the setup. In fact, it's kind of hard to do that because the monitor's standing on its edge. and on the right hand side, a lot of it's obscured by the throttle quad. So we'll fiddle with that later as well. What I might try and do is set up the left screen as well. I'm not going to be able to show them both with live views together, just because I've got nothing to connect up the second monitor to at the moment. What I might do is some sort of composite picture, just to give you an impression of how this is going to look when it's done.